G, hey Larry, hey Carrie, hey Saving God's People, RM Jones, somebody else, Carrie G, Rebecca, Schwader, Rocket Ridgeback, RM Johns, Liberty, what's going on? I can't do Periscope tonight because I have a community service project I'm involved in, but and once again I'm sharing the music of Ian Ethan Case, his Earth Suite. This tune, Greetings, it's called, let's see, Teacup Waterfall. Cool. Hey, hey, Grammy. Let's see if we've got any restream chat going on. Come on. Oh, please. You know who I am. All right, here we go. We've got some chat. This is Ethan Case. He plays double-necked guitar and he does a lot of looping and stuff. And in this, he's layered so many different other instrumentalists. We've got flute, cello, percussion, trumpet. Oh my gosh. Crazy goodness. Come on. Ethan Case. And I cannot wait to share my son's album with you. It's called Meditations. It is currently without vocals, although I'm playing around with it. It doesn't need a thing. It's absolutely perfect. He's going to be releasing it in early October, and I'm going to tell you that when you hear this album, it's an instrumental album, you are going to be transported by it. And I may add, I've suggested maybe some textures, some vocal textures with worship-oriented lyrics, but I don't know, because it is so full that, you know, when it's been said, do you have to say more, right? Sometimes words add less, but in any event. Okay, well, here we are. Let's hop in, my friends. I want to talk to you about how there is a way. When we are fearful and anxious, I think this is my experience, and I can't tell you if you know, this is some neurological thing. I can just tell you from experience, and I believe it's true in relationship to the people that I've worked with, and when I'm stepping off of the edge, the rickety edge of anxiety and fear. This is a fun little coda section on the tune. Is that when we step into certain environments, we go to risk, not risk, on, off, safe, danger. And when we have certain things in front of us, I think we automatically step into a ones and zeros mentality about what's really going on, what's possible for us. You know, failure, not failure. And so one of the things that where we see that exhibiting that kind of on-off thing, and people shut down. Have you noticed you have a shutdown reflex? This is one of the most important things to know when you're overcoming fear and you're dealing with fear-free living as a life skill you're developing. You need to understand when you shut down, when you're just bam, something in you has happened and you've withdrawn. It's called withdraw and regress. And I had no idea what it was until I was sitting across from my counselor, and she's like, let me tell you about withdraw and regress, because that's what you do. It's just kind of pulling in, putting up the shutters like you're going into a hurricane or something, and you pull in, shut down, put up your walls, and go into kind of like robotic function just to and I was really good faker. I could fake people out and say, you know, still be fairly outgoing and look pleasant and look, but inside I was like, I am not, you're not coming near me, you're not going to touch me. And it gives you a little bit of a fuzzy feeling because everything's in you know, kind of this buzzy, anxious mode. I think it's because your body is really ramped up for saving you. But when you're shutting down, that's one of those kind of on off, like in out, good evil, death life. And these are the kinds of things that are set up inside of us when we face certain risks. Hey, Karina. We face these risks, and so we tend to judge from this kind of on or off, all or nothing mentality. And it happens, I think, before we even know it, because of the thing within our body that is really working all the time to make sure we're safe and we're okay. And any perceived threat, even on a really subtle subconscious level, can shift you into an all or nothing thing. But what I want to think about today, because I want to bring myself into it, because as I get more and more healed and more free, I notice I have less and less tolerance for anxiousness and for things that make me feel not present, not calm, unable, unstable, and things that make me get a sense of being undermined or having sort of the rug pulled out from under me. So I'm more aware than ever before of uncomfortable things going on inside. And then I'm realizing I don't have to just have them. You know, for so many years as an anxious, fearful person, it just was what it was. I didn't know there wasn't a buzz of anxiety all the time. I didn't know that. I didn't know that there that there wasn't, you know, that there was a place where I didn't feel somehow threatened. You know, I didn't know that because I was just so used to the hum of all circuits constantly functioning in alarm, right, on some level. And so what will happen is that you'll be in a setting and all of a sudden you can find yourself sort of in a safe, not safe. And I want to tell you there's a third rail. There's a third rail, and that's the way. That's the way, the truth, and the life versus the on and the off. Very often, we have these dualities in our heart and in our head, and if something threatens us, all we can see is destruction or running from, you know, like I'm going to run away from that situation. I don't want to have anything to do with it, or I'm going to medicate it, or I'm going to sublimate it, I'm going to push it down. I'm gonna ignore the anxious feeling because really what I'm in is in a duality where I'm living as if I could live or die based on this thing. And it's a subtle deal. You pay attention and you'll notice it. It's kind of a I could die, I could really get hurt feeling. And so therefore the stakes are so high. But what I want to suggest to you is one of the skills we can learn in the fear-free life is this idea that I don't have to push to the precipice or run to the cave. There's a middle way. And the middle way has something to do with what we talked about yesterday, waiting and watching and looking. I'll give you an example. I had a relationship where I had to confront someone and it was difficult, and I knew I did the right thing, but it really damaged the relationship. And I really wanted to bring some closure, but all I knew was that I didn't have favor, and it kind of was an all or nothing. It felt like it. But I just felt like the Holy Spirit gave me this idea and this kind of little strategy for bringing some healing in the relationship. It just kind of popped into my mind. I had this idea. And it was this idea, someday I'm going to walk into a store and I'm going to see a card, a photographic card of this thing, this setting, this landscape. And it's going to hit me. And I'm going to know that's the day that I can make this risk, that I can reach out and follow up with this person. It was just a funny idea. I don't even know that I had faith for it at the time. But the idea was I had an all or nothing situation. A brokenness, a resentment, a thing, and created stress and anxiety for me. I didn't have favor inside of that friend, no friend, bad, you're bad for confronting me, you're okay for, confronting me. I just had, that's what was set up in the relationship. And the Lord just kind of gave me this idea and dropped into my heart. I don't know, it doesn't seem like me, but it kind of, I think, was a partnership. And I just had this thing, or does it remind you of the time when Gideon said, hey, I'll believe you if you let the dew be on the fleece but not on the ground, and then I'll believe you if the dew is on the ground but not on the fleece. I kind of think Gideon had some creativity. He wanted some confirmation. And I knew I wasn't to run headlong into the forcing of a change. Again, the on or off. I had this idea, maybe it was I think it was kind of my fleece. And I just said, what if I think I'm going to walk into a store and see this exact little card. And when I see that, I'll know that is the time I can reach out to this person with a message. And I looked, and every time I went into a store, my heart rate went up and I got nervous. I went into all or nothing. I went into fear of confrontation and rejection and the uneasiness of this friendship. But I would look and I know there wouldn't be a card. Months. I just kept being aware until one day I walked into a store and there it was. It was what I had, and I just went, this is the way. This is the way. This is the little path that I'm seeking, that I'm watching, the little way where there is no way, the little slice of favor that's between the big jaws of all or nothing. And so I grabbed the card and I wrote a letter of, whatever I felt I had to do at the time, which was to express God's love and concern for this person. And if I didn't hear back, just within a couple of days, I can't believe you sent that to me right at this time because this was going on in her life. And it was a total confirmation that card on that day, in that way, in that little niggling slice of favor between all or nothing, on or off, safe or not safe, dead or alive, bad or good, rejection or acceptance, was a little way, a little witty invention, a little stream of favor. And I often think of that, and I don't know if it's the best illustration, because I believe that when we're presented with very threatening ons or offs, zeros or ones, and we ramp up in our fear-filled state into a degree of anxiety where it seems like the stakes are just super high, I'm learning to pull back and seek a different way. I'm finding that there is a way that seems right unto a man that's terrified and anxious, but the way leads unto death. The way that seems right unto men and women who are in a state of fear, anxiety, is the way of control, or the way of fear, right? Or the way of avoidance. And those ways, those old ways of thinking, tend to be death-like ways. But God says, I got a different way. I've got a strategy. I've got a slice of favor for you. I've got an open door. I've got a way where there is no way. And it's probably going to be a surprise to you how I'm going to help you handle this difficulty. A surprise to you how I'm going to give you a way to say what you need to say that you didn't think you could. A way where you're going to be able to confront, get your message out, come from a different way, come in to disarm, to diffuse. And I want you to know that God is so creative. And I really believe that when I'm ramping up into that state of all or nothing, dead or alive, safe or not safe, in or hiding in the cave, I need to let that person have it, or I'm not going to say anything at all. I really believe there's a way. And it's usually a way that requires waiting. It's usually that way where because you have to have eyes to see a sliver of favor, a sliver of opportunity, a creative way of thinking, where you can be true to yourself and you can express what needs to be expressed, or post what needs to be posted in a high intense situation? Have you ever noticed that certain words can diffuse and certain approaches? For example, for a while there, I was saying to people, I'm only going to, if you don't like encouragement, unfollow me now, because I want to say things that are going to niggle away at the fear-filled messaging we're getting right now. So if you find that upsetting to you, just unfriend me, because I'm going to be your positive voice. And I did for a while. I tried to bring information about the virus and so forth that was positive instead of my all or nothing. I got to tell you why they're lying to us. I got to tell you why, this person, that whole thing, which believe me, I could get into. I was pursuing a different way, which was to be, that's right, Lorraine, encouragement, like I said, to be somebody who reframed, repositioned, rephrased, reworked, recalibrated around the thing that so often Satan wants us to be focused on. That big scary thing in the middle that, oh my gosh, it's out to get you. Boy, if you really confront that person, if you really deal with this, if you really, right? That's right, Ray. But we tend to live in a world where false settings are set up for us to fight battles I'm not sure we have to fight. So I want to show you that there's very often a different way to do what you need to do, to say what you need to say, to confront what you need to confront, to risk how you need to risk, to move the needle into confidence and taking care of business. For example, when I was working specifically at stage fright and the fact that I would blank out when I performed because I was in such a state of fight or flight, I learned to come up with strategies for myself to help me remember and to put certain things on the, I believed at the time in all or nothing. I believed if I was really a great jazz musician, I should be able to play everything from memory, and I should be able to hop up on stage and play with anybody at any time and just start jamming. Because the greats, they look like they do that, right? They just can pick up their instrument and start soloing in any key and doing anything, and they all know the same. They all know the real book. They all know the standards. So, oh yeah, well, play Misty for me in B flat, and everyone goes, boom, and they're in, right? And so my all or nothing, fear-filled state was, I'm not a real musician because I can't do that, or I can only do it to this extent, or in this setting I tend to panic and forget where I'm at. And so I had to shoot in the head that all or nothing and say, I'm not going to live by that high stakes thing all the time. I refuse the original assumption that those are my only choices. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I have to talk to you guys to figure out what I'm trying to say. The enemy and also your old thinking will set up a high stakes situations, HAC, set up high stakes situations for you so you live in an all or nothing. That the only way for you to do this is to be like this person or that person, or the only way for me to be an excellent musician was to be able to have this particular skill set and not to have any of these weaknesses. So I had to have all of this and none of this, or I don't qualify. Do you see? And I had to shoot that in the head, and it was really hard because I really believed that. And I had to go, no, I'm not going to let these sets of high stake parameters and dualities keep me from bringing what I do have. So I'm going to go in here, and I am going to create opportunities for myself to perform that allow me to do what I can do to the best ability and to show up fully and to be creative. So I began to create settings for myself to perform in that were less threatening than the high stakes, that were more loving, that were more creative, that allowed me to touch people more personally. And I began to go ahead and say, I may not be this person and I might not be that, but I'm going to show up, and if I need music, I'm going to use my music. I'm going to prepare. And I'm going to have the right chair and the right height so I can see, and I can see over the guitar, and I can watch and I know when I need to use this strategy and that strategy. So there was a way. But you will not see the way out of the fear-filled paradigm of all or nothing, good or bad, fail or win, unless you can remove the lies and the false assumptions that are set up. It's like when you're having a debate. If you take for granted the original premise that somebody sets for you in a conversation, you're on the defensive from the beginning. If you assume that somebody else's definition of the words and the precepts and the foundation of the argument, if you accept all those things without challenging them, then you are in a playpen that's been set for you. You have parameters you have to work within. Whereas it's important to walk into settings, especially with relationships or fear or situation where you have to take care of business and scary things, and question the assumptions. That's it. Oh, I should have called this question the assumptions. Question the assumptions that have been set up for you. Do you really have to do it all or nothing? Do you really have to confront this person the way you always thought you did? Do you really have to do it that way? Do you really have to only be successful if that's true? Is it really just two massive dualities and you're a pass or fail? Question the assumptions you've set up for yourself in the behavior and in the setting where you have to deal with something that's uncomfortable for you, and then look for the middle way. Look for the creative way. And say, wait a minute, I question that. I'm not even gonna, that premise, I don't have to accept that premise. I have a different premise. And my premise is God's making a way for me to do something that it's kind of hard for me to do. My premise is I'm a groundbreaker. I'm doing something different. My premise is if God has called me to go in and deal with a real mess, I don't have to blow it up, and I don't have to run from it. There's a different way. Am I making sense to you guys? What does that do for you? First of all, it makes you redefine terms and come up with truth statements out of which you can function in the difficult settings. Your new premise. My new premise is I'm not going to define what kind of musician I am based on, Bill Evans or, Dolly Parton. I don't know who I would think would be the greatest or the least. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't have to let those things define the terms. Because usually fear is based on a set of premises that we have to examine that say, you'll never if you don't, or you're always if you do, correct? And so I just want to say, pull back from the all or nothing, ones and zeros premises of the difficult things you're facing and the things that create that uncomfortableness, right? The grays, that's right. And embrace the reality that there's an overlap of your strengths and weaknesses and others' strengths and weaknesses, and there's a favorable way where there is no way. There's ways that seem right unto men. The old ways we've thought, but they lead unto death. It's really that, nobody wants to live that high stakes. I don't want to live that high stakes. So when I'm going to risk, and I tell you guys to risk all the time, I want to risk with finesse. Can we risk with finesse? Like there's a sense in which I will be the one that jumps into the cold water first. I'll be the one that goes off the high dive and does the cannonball. I'll be the one, water skiing and cutting hard and trying different things. And I'll be the one kind of cracking the joke in the room that is the more kind of edgy, risky. I don't know if people might think I'm stupid. But there's a lot of things that I would rather use finesse on rather than just muscling out of a fear paradigm. And when we're muscling everything out of control, I think it's a fear reaction, as opposed to saying, okay, I have a difficult thing I got to do. I have some people I have to deal with. Even tonight, I was taking a risk in a public event. I'm sticking my neck out. And I was feeling it. And I thought to myself, wow, I think I got a ones and zeros in there somewhere. Why can't I be the person who enters the room? Why can't I be the person that enters the room with a different set of possibilities? Why do I have to be all that or all that? Why do I have to align fully with this or run from that? What if I'm the person with a totally different set of paradigms who doesn't have to see it the way everybody else sees it? Doesn't have to fix things, doesn't have to rescue the world, doesn't have to run and hide or save everybody. What if I'm looking for that little excellent way? This is what says in 1 Corinthians, and now I'll show you a more excellent way. And I wanted to tell you there are excellent ways, little ways of favor, right? And yeah, and love can be very creative. Love can be subtle. Love can have finesse. Love can reframe. Love. We're not talking about the wussy stuff, like politicians. You ask a politician a question and they'll always find 100 ways to not give you any direct answer, right? No, I'm talking about where you're being very true to yourself. Your true north, where you're allowing yourself to be seen and known, but you're smart enough, creative enough, and faith-filled enough to look for a way that isn't about muscling through the situation, exposing yourself unnecessarily to a paradigm of, control or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, can we be the people in the room that discuss the difficult topics without being caustic and difficult, and disgusting? Can we be the people entering into these dialogues and confronting our friends and asking questions and taking care of business and going through family history and bringing reconciliation without the old ways? So we'll think some more about this. There's lots to consider in this topic. But there is a way. There's a way. There's a way for you to do what you need to do. And chances are, as God gives you eyes to see and ears to hear and creativity, and as you challenge the paradigm in your mind about how it's always been done, how nobody can confront grandma because she always, right? Oh, my husband's always and I'm never, and he is or she isn't, or I can't and I always. This happens and I never know what, these things we need to remove. The presuppositions we have about so many situations, and look for the more excellent way, and watch how it's a way of finesse, a way of creativity, a way of reframing, right? Re-expressing, reimagining, and showing up there. And you can show up there like, the more I performed, and the more I perform, the less some of these things I need. The more direct I can be, the more risk-oriented I can be in certain ways, the more I know about myself now that I didn't know when I started. But when I started, I needed a way that would allow me to show up and risk to my capacity for risk at the time. And that's what you want. We're not asking you, I wasn't ready for Carnegie. I'm still not ready for Carnegie Hall. But I was ready for a certain level of risk, and I could do that. And I could do that excellently, even though I still have so much to learn, right? Okay, so go do something that scares you, but don't assume that that means you have to live out of a presupposition of two huge fighting dualities of on or off, all or nothing, bad or good, heaven or hell. Look for a way for God to open a way and give you wisdom to show up. Take your risk, take care of business in a fresh, creative way. And I'm not saying it's without its risks and maybe some pain and pushback, but I feel like there are so many more ways for us to show up and be real and authentic without feeling like we have to do things the way we always saw them done in the past in our relationships and our communication, right? Okay. So, and remember, subscribestar.com, Julie Lavender. You can if these are valuable to you, you can support the show, or at certain levels of investment, or you're going to be in a small group mastermind with me. That can really sow into your life, or several different examples of how we could connect. Right? How about some one-on-one coaching? Huh? All right, I'd love to do that with you. So anyway, I believe we will have, I'm sure, look for a prayer scope this week. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 1:15. In the meantime, look for some ways to do those things that scare you, that are way more creative and favor-filled than you imagine they could be.